of you viewers of Equinoxe Television, we thank you so much for joining us on this other edition of the news. Right away, we begin with our major stories. Judicial police officers have arrested suspected murderers of a pregnant woman around Dokoti here in Douala. Among the killers is one of her closest neighbors who usually came to her for food and other needs. The young lady was stabbed severally in her shop. Plus, people who make frequent trips on the Douala-Ebeya highway now live in total fear. They say they will have to reduce night travels on that highway after some hoodlums shot heavy objects at passing vehicles over the weekend, leaving many people severely wounded. Viewers, those are our major stories. Stay with us for details more. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Annabella Leke. We begin with this sad news elements. Two alleged killers of a young woman in her 30s have been arrested by the judicial police here in Douala. The heavily pregnant Yamche Alice was stabbed severely to death at her shop somewhere around Dokoti here in Douala. One of the alleged killers is said to be her closest neighbor who usually went to the deceased for food and other needs. Lucy Liengu Asia completes the story for us.
After several investigations, the elements of the judicial police lay hands on two suspected murderers of late Nyemche Monte Alice, who was killed on the night of 23rd of February 2023 at St. Cantes in Dokoti, Douala 3 subdivision.
The investigation opened thereafter under the coordination of the regional delegate for the national security, acting according to the prescription of the chief of staff and the governor of the Littoral region, led to the arrest of two individuals out of the four who constituted this organized criminal group and placed at the disposal of the public prosecutor.
According to Commissioner Esono Edu, one of the suspects is her closest neighbor who usually asks her for help.
According to their statements, one of whom lived right in front of the victim. After having spotted the late Yamche Monte as having a certain amount of money, they set up an operation with the aim of stealing it. Thus, two of them went to his store, while the other two were the lookout. The main aggressor entered in store, cut the strap of the victim's back with the dagger and seized the back. When Lady Yamche tried to resist, they stabbed her in the thighs before leaving, unaware that the victim was pregnant and eventually died.
It should be noted that the young lady pregnant with a set of twins was in her shop that Thursday evening when she was stabbed to death. She laid in her own pool of blood, struggled and finally died. Security officers say investigations continue to arrest the two suspects who are still on the run.
Sad indeed. And passengers who frequently ply the Douala-Ebeya highway at night say they might have to reduce the number of trips they make, especially at night. This is after several people were seriously wounded after their vehicles were attacked by some bandits in the Sanaga Maritime Division, precisely around the Dibamba. Our reporter Martin Dikan Gabriel met with some passengers at some motor parks here in Douala who say they want the government to tighten security on the Douala-Ebeya highway, especially at night.
One of the agencies whose bus was destroyed during the recent attack on the National Road number 3, the bus was still in the same state, no changes on it. Hassan, the driver of the bus, is still surprised to be alive till date after what happened. I started work at 6:45 p.m. There was no problem until about 10 p.m. as I finished climbing the hill at the toll gate in Ebeya. After I overtook a lorry, then I heard a huge sound like that of a bomb. I saw the screen broken and immediately I lost control. But thanks to Allah, I am still up till date.
C'est quand j'ai prononcé mon Dieu à 3 reprises, Allahu Akbar, que ma main droite a pu encore toucher le volant pour que je puisse retrouver la chaussée, quoi. Et j'ai mis le bus au point mort.
The stone that was used on Hassan's bus is still with him.
Là, dans le projet-ci que j'ai
This is the
reçu au
stone
niveau de
that
la
came
pare-brise,
through the
c'est venu
screen.
comme
This is the stone of faith, which I missed.
On a pu échapper, et puis grâce au Seigneur.
The driver of the bus wasn't the only one who was attacked on that fateful night. Another agency that was traveling on the same road faced the same problem.
We left Yaoundé and were coming to Douala, and just immediately after we crossed the Idea place where they are constructing, just at Antirazé, we saw a very huge stone that left from nowhere and landed on the windscreen of the driver. And we could not trace where this stone was coming from, but from the look of things, you could see that the target was the driver. Because had it been the stone touched the driver, I think he would have lost control and probably he would have sent the car into the bush. But I believe that these unknown guys that carried this act, their target was, had it been the bus stop, had it been we would have stopped there. Maybe that's when they would have come, maybe with their different weapons to come and rob us.
Mbaku Jodone says why they were still to overcome the attack on their car, it was a private vehicle that came behind them.
While we left the place and we arrived at a certain control, that's a gendarmerie control there, and we saw a gendarme that came and was asking us what happened. So we could not even explain because we never knew what happened. And after we spoke with him, suddenly another private car was following us behind. And from the look of things, it was a military man. It was only him and the wife that was inside. I asked him, what's the issue? He said, what happened to you equally happened to me. So I said, let me go towards the car and find out. So while I went there, I saw the wife was in front of the car. They had also break the windscreen of his car and the wife was seriously bleeding.
Several passengers are now afraid of traveling at night after last weekend's incident, with most of them expecting a quick action from the government. The bus owners on their part have called on the drivers to be more vigilant while driving.
And Governor Samuel Jodone Varadzibua, the governor of the Littoral region, Zatros yesterday said some of the bandits have already been arrested and security will sure be tightened on the Douala-Idea highway that would be in the days to come. And now we talk health. Ignorance on the manifestations of menopause in women is a major preoccupation of health experts in the city of Douala. Little or no knowledge about menopause has caused lots of women to panic when faced with this condition. In this effect, a sensitization campaign was organized here in Douala to educate the women, especially on premature menopause. Let's now have more with Immaculate Fogwe.
Menopause is a time when a woman stops having menstrual periods and is no longer able to get pregnant naturally. In other words, it marks the end of the fatal reproductive years of a woman. This usually occurs between 45 and 55 years. This unavoidable cycle of a woman varies from person to person.
We have mood swings. What is mood swings? Mood swings is actually when you are going to see sometimes at a certain period you are happy, at a certain period you become suddenly angry. You don't even know why. They are going to ask you, actually, why are you even angry? You are going to say, I don't even know. You don't know what triggers your anger. And there's also weight gain. Women who are into menopause or who are entering menopause, they tend to gain weight more easily. Sometimes you ask them, what do you eat that you take weight so much? They're going to say, I don't even know what I eat. I don't even eat. It's still my normal balanced diet I do eat. So there's also...
Though some women have likely heard about menopause, many are confused of how to manage this period, as it's commonly misunderstood. Reason why a sensitization campaign to create awareness about this period of a woman's life was organized in the city of Douala.
The reason why we are actually here is to come and sensibilize our women on menopause. We are going to tell them what menopause is and at the age range when the menopause can actually occur. And we're also going to tell them about the signs and symptoms of menopause. Some women, when they actually enter menopause, they don't really know about the menopause. They don't know that they are into menopause. So some of them get afraid, thinking it's another form of disease that is actually disturbing them. No, actually, according to standard, menopause begins starting from 50 years and above. But still, there are some women that can experience menopause even before 50 years, what we call premenopausal period.
Menopause can also be induced as a consequence of a surgical procedures that involve removal of both ovaries or medical interventions that cause cessation of ovarian function, for example, radiation or chemotherapy. It is not possible to predict when a woman will experience menopause, although there are associations between age and certain demographic, health, and genetic factors.
Well, early menopause can really be challenging to women, especially those who are below 40. And now in education, students of the government technical high school in Nous, in the Mongo division of the Littoral region, have proven their know-how in their various fields of study, from the construction of household equipment to electrical appliances and even monuments. The students during the open door days of government technical schools across the national territory used the opportunity to express some challenges they face. Top among them is frequent power failure, especially as their exams are fast approaching. Mala Glory reports.
The end of year official exams is fast approaching, yet these students of Government Technical High School Nous are unable to complete their training course due to frequent power outage. When there is blackout, we can't do anything, especially when there is no manual machine. This really affects our work and our program for that day. This is one amongst the many other challenges faced by these technical students of GTHS Nous, Mongo division of the Littoral region.
We have so many difficulties as far as training technical students are concerned. We have machines, but they are not enough. And also for those who are also sewing, we call them the seamstress. They also have electricity shortage because those machines are being supplied by electricity.
Their frustrations were raised in the course of activities marking the Open Door Day in GTHS Nous. The Open Door, which had a slogan, "Produce and consume Cameroon products," permitted students to showcase their know-how in wood works, building construction and designing. Courses which should be encouraged according to the school principal. If we take, for example, wood, you can see the wonderful items produced by these children with the use of wood from our forest. If we also look at other departments, we'll have no reason to envy foreign products. That is why the slogan is "Produce and consume Cameroon." At the end of the day, the principal of the Government Technical High School Nous said that children can do better if they are provided with the expected equipment, thus calling on parents to consider the needs of their children while sending them to a technical school, and for the government to equip the schools at the end of the construction project.
In other news, ahead of the upcoming summit of heads of state of the Central African Sub-Regional Bloc, we take a look at some major challenges affecting the community, the challenges which are expected to be on the table of discussions during the meeting in Yaoundé. Stakes of the heads of state summit with Babila Jonathan.
The implementation of the Economic and Financial Reform Program, CEMAC, the CFA reform, the Russia-Ukraine war, issues concerning cryptocurrencies, and appointment within CEMAC organs and institutions are some of the stakes of the upcoming 15th Conference of Heads of State of the Central African Sub-Region, March 17, 2023, in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé. The heads of state will also be looking at how to make the sub-region's economic communities, that is, the Economic Community of Central African States, the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, and the Economic Community of the Great Lakes countries more efficient. Ahead of the actual summit, these topics will be discussed during the preliminary workshop of the Council of Ministers of the Central African Monetary Union, March 15. Concerning the implementation of PREF CEMAC, the heads of state had emphasized on the need to accelerate structural reforms to deal with the economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. This was to be done through the transition from International Monetary Fund IMF-funded first-generation programs to second-generation programs. As of now, only 4 countries, Gabon, Cameroon, Chad and Congo, have concluded programs with the IMF in line with the objectives of PREF CEMAC. The Central African Republic and Equatorial Guinea are still lagging behind. The governor of the Bank of Central African States, Abbas Mahamat Toli, is expected to present the result of his work on the CFA reform. The heads of states request for an in-depth reflection on conditions and a framework of a new monetary cooperation with France was entrusted to him and the CEMAC Commission during the extraordinary summit of November 2019. In the same vein, the consequences of cryptocurrencies on the economies of the sub-region are expected to be discussed by the heads of state. The issue triggered debate after the Central African Republic adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender in April 2022. According to the governor of the Bank of Central African States, the decision was taken by the government of the Central African Republic in violation of the monetary cooperation agreements with France, the text governing the monetary union, and the statutes of the Bank of Central African States. About appointments, some top officials of regional organs and institutions have reached the end of their terms of office for a one-year term. President Paul Biya has held the position of President of CEMAC since March 2019. The 6 members of the CEMAC government have been in office since February 2017 for a 5-year term, and the President of the Central African Financial Market Supervisory Commission, COSUMAF, in office since December 2017 for a 5-year term. Appointments are generally made based on the principle of rotation, which requires that nationals of community member states take over from each other at the head of bodies and institutions according to the alphabetical order of the names of countries. Despite the existence of this principle, there have been problems with some appointments, including the appointment of the president of the Sub-Regions Development Bank. Last year, it provoked tensions between Cameroon and Chad when each country claimed it was its turn to run. Cameroon finally obtained the position and Chad promised a senior position in one of the institutions. The CEMAC heads of state are thus expected to evaluate the implementation of the principle of rotation to avoid such conflicting situations in future regional appointments.
And now, after the voting exercise of senators across the national territory, what happens next as we wait for the result? After the voting stage, 2 other stages are left before the final end of the electoral process in the 2023 senatorial elections. The voting stage paved the way for vote counting, which will be followed by dispute and a proclamation of the election results according to the Electoral Code. For me, Armstrong Sander.
The question of what next after the Sunday 12th senatorial election has been at the center of preoccupations for most right-thinking Cameroonians and keen observers. The answer is, however, provided by the Electoral Code in chapters 11 and 12. Chapter 11 on the counting of votes says a regional supervisory committee shall be set up in each region as follows: a chairperson who should be a magistrate of the Court of Appeal designated by the President of the Court of Appeal, 3 representatives of the administration designated by the Governor, 1 representative each of the political parties taking part in the election, and 3 representatives of Elections Cameroon designated by the Chairperson of ELECAM. Section 237 says these regional supervisory commissions shall centralize and ensure the counting and verification of vote counting operations on the basis of reports forwarded by polling stations. On electoral disputes and proclamation of results, Chapter 12, Section 239 says the Constitutional Council shall ensure the regularity of the election of senators. It further says that senatorial election dispute shall be settled in accordance with the provisions of Section 133 and 136 of this law. Section 136 on its part says all petitions must reach the Constitutional Council within no more than 72 hours of the close of the polls. The Constitutional Council may, if it deems necessary, hear any applicant or request the submissions of evidence against a receipt. Back to Chapter 12, Section 240 says the Constitutional Council shall proclaim the results of the election of senators within 15 days following the close of the polls. Section election results and candidature shall be final.
And now we talk sports. Several days after the president of Rangers Football Club of Bafut was suspended by his peers of the Association of Elite Clubs in the country, he is still to be served the documents. According to George Nibashu, who was talking to a Northwest regional correspondent, the action he took was for the good of all other clubs. The suspension of Rangers Football Club of Bafut hasn't demoralized the club that we met preparing for their Elite 2 match encounter against Unisport of Bafang at the Bambili Stadium in Bamenda. That would be on Wednesday. And now let's listen to George Nibashu, president of Rangers Football Club of Bafut. The team captain is also upbeat about their match against Unisport of Bafang. Let's listen to him.
Our president has been suspended from the Association of Presidents, but we still have the spirit there. It has not, is not an effect on us. So we are still working hard. We have a match tomorrow, and we are preparing so hard for the match. So it doesn't disturb us. So the heads are up, and we'll fight tomorrow for the 3 points. It's not the team that has been suspended from the league, so we'll keep fighting. Yeah, thank you.
The suspension is based on salary issues. How does it affect you as a person?
No, okay, like our president has been saying on the media, he has been managing the team so well. So we the players, we don't have any problem. Yeah, so we are there, and everything is okay for us. Everything is okay.
Yes, I saw the letter on social media, but they have not yet notified me about the suspension.
What's your reaction to that letter?
I don't have any reaction because I don't know the reason of my suspension. Because what I came out to say, it was for the interest of the club, or the interest of the association. So I'm still waiting for them to notify me. If they notify me, then I'll know what to say.
What exactly was the issue?
The problem is I went out to criticize how Fikafut is managing their affairs, because we know Fikafut is our partner. Without Fikafut, we cannot live, and without the clubs, Fikafut cannot function. So it came at the time they were complaining about paying of players. And we have an agreement with them that there is a certain amount they have to give to us to add and pay the players. But for a long period, they have not been giving the money. So every day they will come out and say we should pay the players. It seems we were collecting the money from them and we were not paying the players. So when I went out, I said they should always come out and say the truth. If they don't have money, they should not be criticizing the club president.
Was the president of the Rangers Football Club of Bafut, George Nibashu, speaking with our regional correspondent, Bustela. And viewers, that does it for the first part of the news. Don't go away, Talking Points comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Barrister Emmanuel Ashu Agbo. Thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Just to let our viewers know that you are a lawyer, a legal mind, and you're also the president of a political party, the Reform Party. Thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Today we are talking about the visit of the President-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to the private sector. He has visited Aliko Dangote And he recently, Aliko Dangote paid him a visit, and he recently paid a courtesy visit to the business magnate Tony Elumelu. Barrister, we're talking about that. What can you make of the president-elect visits to the private sector in Nigeria? What's your appraisal of that?
One would expect the president of Nigeria's, the president-elect of Nigeria, which is Africa's major powerhouse, to try to fine-tune his economic policy by visiting the people who constitute the economic foundation of that country. If I take the case of Mr. Elumelu, I would think that the president-elect's visit to this gentleman would have two undertones. The first one being economic, and the second one being political. The economic part would be to tap from this economic wizard the strategies that have been helping his empire to grow and to stabilize, and that would obviously help the new president to fine-tune, as I said, his economic policy. Then the second one may be political, because Mr. Elumelu certainly has political connections, and we know that these elections are being contested, and I firmly believe that that visit is somehow geared towards getting in touch with somebody who can get in touch with another, who is capable of bringing about some maybe organized or some solution, some sort of solution to the contests, to the contestations that are going on. So I think if we consider that some eminent Nigerian politicians have made some statements which don't go very well with the elections, we can expect that some people may be contacted to try to mediate and see whether those people can pipe down a bit and allow the new man to enter office.
And now, Barrister, were you referring there to Nigeria's former president Olusegun Obasanjo, who seemed not to be happy with the beavers machines that was during the elections?
No, that's not the only case that was noticed. I mean, the malpractices were widespread, and Obasanjo was actually speaking the minds of Nigerians, because after his speech, you saw how INEC itself came up. People inside INEC came up to say, no, this went wrong, this went wrong, what we declared was not correct. In fact, those elections stand a chance of not being validated by the courts. So let's just wait and see. But I think that it is a very good thing for Mr. Tinubu to contact the economic operators, because these are the people who make Nigeria great. And without them, I don't see how he can dream of making Nigeria greater.
And now, Barrister, Dangote and others were the ones. They are also billionaires in Nigeria. They are the ones who actually paid a visit to the president-elect. But we saw that the president-elect, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the one who paid a courtesy visit to Tony Elumelu. What do you make of that?
Of humility. This simply means that this is a person who is going to go down to whatever level it takes to make consultations, provided they are going to help him in managing the country. So I think it's a very good sign. I personally didn't approve of his election, because I saw that he looks very frail. But from the actions I see him putting well, maybe this may be some person who can put Nigeria on a better track. So why not? I look at his consultations as being the proof of humility, the proof of somebody who is ready to tender a hand to the downtrodden, tender a hand to the people who normally don't matter in other states, in other countries. I mean, these economic operators, if you take the case of Cameroon here, I don't see how our head of state will go visiting an economic operator. I mean, in many countries, these are people who don't matter. So if you have a president-elect going down to them, it means this is somebody who really means business, and we should expect much. The man who seeks, you see, the person who talks never misses his way. So, well, that may be it. Since he is talking and tendering a handshake, I think he should be on the right way.
Now, Barrister, that takes me directly to my next question. In our context in Cameroon, President Paul Biya, anyway, to the best of our knowledge, has never had a visit or paid a visit to the private sector. Now, we might want to know who is the one to go to who, the private sector to the president or vice versa.
He might not be publicizing, President Paul Biya might not publicize his encounters with some of our economic operators, but we all know that he has been visiting Mr. Late Fosso. He receives most of the economic operators when they come to the Unity Palace for the end of year, for the beginning of the year festivities. And, well, he doesn't leave his palace to come down to the streets to visit them, but I think, well, we all know whenever he comes to the regions, there is a day reserved for him to receive economic operators. That is done in camera, but in the Nigerian case, you see that it is done openly. I mean, the man leaves his house and goes to the economic operator's house directly, and everybody sees. In our own case here, well, once in a while, the president, when he comes to Douala on an official visit, they will say, okay, on this day he will receive politicians, this other day he will receive economic operators, but they don't give you the list of people he receives. We just know that economic operators are received by him on that day according to the official schedule that has been announced. So, the main difference here is that, well, while the man in Nigeria is visiting people who make the economy to move, who the movers and the shakers of the economy, our own here may be visiting people whom he wants to help his government to say, okay, the government wants to employ, to create employment. To Cameroon, how many people can you absorb? UCB, how many can you take? Sonara, how many can you take? You see, it is in that line, not the line of fostering the open market, because the two economies are different. In Nigeria, you have an open market economy. In Cameroon, you have a government-oriented economy, a government-piloted economy. You have many ministries of the government that are in charge of controlling the market. Price controls, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, they are all in charge of taking one action or the other concerning the market. Even the Ministry of Finance, they are all there. You see, so it is not the same thing. With us, we have a different setting from that of the Nigerians, which is an open market economy where the main actors are not government officials, but the people, the operatives of the private sector.
Now, Barrister, should our president try to have an encounter with the business world, the private business world in Cameroon? And if that happens, if yes, what are some of the possibilities of the fallout in such meetings or encounter between President Paul Biya and business persons or economic operators in Cameroon? What can be some of the fallout of such a meeting?
What takes the youth out of unemployment is a government policy. It's not a simple discussion you will get with somebody. You see, for the president of Cameroon to have that type of discussion, he should first of all have it inside his manifesto. If you look at CPD first of all has no manifesto. When you ask them, they tell you that pour le libéralisme communautaire is their manifesto. That is communal liberalism. Is a manifesto. It is not. That is a political essay. It's not a manifesto. So, who has no manifesto about youth employment? What type of roadmap do you think he can use when he's discussing with economic operators? Because if I am asking you to go sweep the floor, and I don't know what it takes to sweep the floor, will I be able to know whether you have swept the floor well or not? You see, that is what I mean by the president has to get a manifesto. He should be meeting this man in furtherance with the manifesto. But if he has no manifesto, he is going to have just a blunt discussion. Okay, you want to create employment for the youth. It is not the economic operator who should tell you what you should do to create the employment. If you ask Reform Party, we'll give you a series of things that can be done to create employment for the youth. But people who don't have any manifesto, they don't have anything to tell you. So their own visit in that case will be simply a visit that will be governed by things like, well, personal interest, or maybe some consultation. Maybe he wants to carry this man and put into the government, and while he's in the government, will say, okay, you see how you are going to run the National Employment Fund, or do things like that. But it was not going to be on the same footing, because in the Nigerian context, the Nigerian, only Tinubu himself is an economic powerhouse. He is not empty. He's a powerhouse. He is going to see another powerhouse to fine-tune. I talked of fine-tuning his economic policies. He knows already what to do, so he's going to see this man to fine-tune his policies.
Barrister, the president-elect Tinubu, Ahmed Bola, and Tony Elumelu also spoke on how to empower youth in Nigeria. Can such an initiative be brought back to our country, and can it, if we finally decide to adopt it, can it help to take the youth out of unemployment in Cameroon?
His visit should not be publicized, because if people know that he is coming, you know, there's likely to be a breach in security. But as you said earlier, the way we have seen the president managing the country for the past 40 years, he is a type of person, he gets to you, he calls you, you don't come to him. It's difficult. I mean, that's his own way. It's difficult for one to say the president was spotted going to visit this man. No, that is unheard of. It's really unheard of. Because even if he goes out to visit a friend, that would be top secret. You can only hear afterwards that he was seen visiting this man. But before he goes, nobody knows. Well, we are told that is because of presidential security. But I think that it would be something better for the head of state of Cameroon to emulate Mr. Tinubu's example. Because for him to visit the main economic operators puts these operators in confidence. You see, if you receive the visit of the head of state, you now feel your importance in society. You say, no, I am somebody who can be consulted at home by the head of state. I can receive him. You see, you know that you are also important. You build up in confidence, and you will tend now to be a partner to the head of state instead of being a critic who will be seeking loopholes and faults to discredit his action. So it is a nice thing for him to copy that example and try to get to the main economic operators, even the small ones, get to know their difficulties and see how they can be helped out of those difficulties to make the economy a better one.
And now, Barrister, some opinions have it that Tinubu visits to some business magnates is a way for him to protect or secure his highly contested election. Are you of that same opinion?
Well, delegatio non potest delegare. You don't delegate delegated functions. When the people of Cameroon choose him as a president, we have delegated our sovereignty to him. So he shouldn't delegate that anymore. You don't delegate delegated functions. So we expect him to carry out those duties himself and not send people to go do, because we have all seen what happened. Each time he has sent people to go down to the people to go and talk, the feedback that he gets is totally different from what people tell these delegates. I remember like sometimes some professors were sent to Southwest to go contact the population on this crisis. And the people in Kumba said, what we want is federation. But the message that went up there was that the people wanted unitary state. You see? So if he wants to govern by sending people to go here for him, he should stand the risk of not getting the real information from the people. Like we have seen it happen. If you talk to the people directly, what they tell you is not filtered by anybody. But when you send people, they have the chance of filtering and giving you what they want you to know. So it is better, if you want to know what the people actually think, go to them. And as I said, it's not just a matter of personal contact. When you meet the people who matter, I mean, whose opinion or actions are important in their field, they grow in confidence. They take you as a partner. And you see, they accompany you in your actions. But if you have to keep them there and from time to time send somebody to go and ask them, well, how are things? No, sir. The slightest loophole that they find, they will start launching missiles at their policy.
And now a last word to us, Barrister, before you go about the visit of the President-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to some private stakeholders of the private sector, especially business magnates. What do you have to say? All right. We couldn't get to the end of our interview as we would have loved to because of time constraint. Barrister, we thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, we thank you so much for always being with us. Don't go away. Our programs continue. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. De lundi à vendredi sur Equinoxe Télévision.
La vie est de plus en plus chère à Yaoundé et Douala.
Si vous prenez les safous que nous appelons vulgairement les prunes, les prix ont chuté.
Il aurait vu, il aurait demandé, il aurait dit, essayez de répercuter cela un peu dans le Cameroun pour voir ce que ça donne. On ne serait pas aujourd'hui à parler du problème de blé.
Est-ce que vous avez pour vous une explication à cela?
On a tout ce qu'il faut. Maintenant, comment faire? Il faut des décisions fortes.
Je vais rejoindre l'analyse de mon guide qui pense que c'est une théorie.